Now, like most creators, we all start from somewhere, mine being the phone. Then I decided to get one of these, and that eventually led to me doing one of these. And although I've worked with a ton of cine cameras in the past, these have probably been the go-to kind of rigs that I've been building and using for a lot of things. So I can only imagine how many people actually buy one of these but never actually know how to properly build them out. So today we're going to be talking about how to build out your basic video camera and some of the accessories that I like to use. So let's get into it. Now, first up, I'm going to note that this is purely a hardware video, so there's not going to be any extra parts like microphones and monitors, mainly because that's all up to you guys. Those are the kind of accessories that I find personalize the rig or kind of tailor the rig to what each scenario requires. This, however, is going to be just the basics of a rig, and anything that you can build on top of that will come after. And as someone that's probably tested almost all the gear out there and personally has purchased them solely so I know exactly what I'm doing, these are going to be the parts that I find I come back to more often and actually use on a daily. This is going to be a rig as well that you can build on top of after and kind of customize based on what you guys actually do. Now, I'm currently building on the FX3, but a lot of the times I also have an A7 IV that I use. So this rig is also interchangeable between different kind of bodies, and I try to make it as compatible and universal with all camera systems as possible. Now, this is what I consider my go-to build. There are different builds that I like to do, like a portable travel build, which is even smaller and made out of parts that are a little bit more compact. There's also rigs that I've built that also support larger cameras and larger lenses, but I find this is a rig that more people will gravitate towards. As you can see, it's pretty compact. I like to keep it as light as possible. You'll also find that you can add your own things to this rig later on, and that's mainly why I don't include a microphone, different kind of monitors, or if you have a follow focusing system. Those are a little bit more add-on type items. But I will say that this rig was also built to just be the most easily broken down rig that you can take apart anytime you need to. Now, with most rigs, you'll have a structure. This is the rod system, where you can attach different things to the rod and mainly attach your V-mount battery. You'll then have core accessories like your lens, top handled cage, and maybe a matte box, but everything that you would need to actually run the camera would essentially stay on the camera. And that's kind of the philosophy I have with all my rigs. If I need something where I need to break it down, everything is still on here and I can remove all the extra parts with an instant click. So getting into the first part that's probably the most integral is the cage. The cage is where you're going to be able to mount everything directly to, and also adds a layer of protection to your camera and a little bit of versatility. And it's the SMALLRIG Hawklock cage for the FX3 and FX30. Now, this is probably one of my favorite cages solely because it takes after its previous predecessor, which is just a regular cage that they made. But it includes the Hawklock system, which is really convenient for a lot of creators out there if you're looking to build upon it. Now, I find this is probably the more convenient options just because you're able to utilize all the different mounting points along the actual cage, but you're also able to use the Hawklock system as well as their NATO system. Now, the NATO rail system has probably been the most versatile amongst all different brands, and it's nice to know that they built their entire Hawklock system off it, which makes it a lot more convenient. Let's show you guys this here. So this is a Hawklock top handle, and all I have to do is just slide it on, click, and it actually locks right into place, which is convenient for a lot of people. And if you like that system, great way to just kind of have all your systems work together with your different cameras. But I have a regular NATO handle here. You can slide it on, lock it in place, and it'll do the exact same thing. Now, one of the main things I really like about this cage is that no one else makes this sort of tilted microphone mount or hot shoe mount that kind of sits right in the corner here. And a lot of videographers will find that useful, especially if you're doing run and gun, because you either mount a handle in the middle here or a monitor on top, and you'll often find that you'll have no spot for your actual microphone. And the reason why I like that angle is because you're able to actually mount your microphone while still keeping those accessories on. And there's been a ton of different cages that I've used for the FX3 where it's mounted right directly on top, and it's a little bit harder to actually mount a microphone when you have a handle right next to your hand. Now, it's not to say that you need to get this exact same one, because the main key feature that you really need for the cage is this plate here. This is an ARCA plate on the bottom here, and most cases typically have an ARCA plate. But that's one of the key features of my builds where I'm able to actually just slot the camera on and off very quickly and easily using the ARCA system. On a side note, there's a lot of creators that I find mount an ARCA plate right on top of this ARCA plate, and it annoys me so much. But guys, just utilize this plate here. It makes it a lot easier. Also, there's lines that kind of help you align your entire rig to it. So there really is no reason why you shouldn't be using the actual cage. Now this is TILTA's LWS baseplate system, and there's a couple reasons why I like using it. Mainly for the fact that it has a certain height that I like to use. Now I'm using an ARCA Swiss plate here. Like I said before, you want to have a compatible system for your camera cage as well as for your base plate to make it easy to pull on and off. So utilizing this one right here, I'm able to just lock it in just like that, and it won't be going anywhere. So what I did was this top portion here can actually be removed entirely from the base plate through this hole here. So you can flip it backwards. And the reason why I did that is because, as you can tell, there's this sort of slanted profile on one side, and then there's a flat profile on this. And this is actually going to help reduce the size of your rig a lot, and you'll see in a minute here. But this is your standard 15mm rod system here. You'll find a lot of camera systems actually use this rod, and it's so you can mount different accessories along the camera, like follow focus motors, if you have different kind of handles, or if you want to mount your mics to it, or like most people, you'll find that they mount their V-mount plates directly to the rod system. Now with the base plate in mind, the next thing we'll be taking a look at is your battery plate. Now I've tested a bunch of different battery plates, and this is probably one of my favorites because you're able to actually deliver power right through the actual base, which means you're able to actually take any kind of V-mount and just kind of slot it in and still have power delivered throughout the entire plate. Now with this battery plate, you're getting 2 LEMO connections, 2 DTAP connections, and 1 USB-C connection straight from your battery. Now, one of the reasons why I do like using this plate is the fact that you're able to still remove your battery anytime you want without having to disconnect any kind of cables, which makes it a lot more convenient when you're running and gunning and you need to just swap a battery in and out and start recording. Now you don't have to get this plate, it's just a little bit more convenient than actually taking a DTAP and sticking it onto the side of those regular metal plates for your V-mount, which I've done here and is essentially the same thing, but for a more cleaner look and something that's a little bit more compact and peace of mind, this makes it a lot easier. Now choosing different kind of rods isn't a big thing, but if we're going to get into it, let's get into it. I've tested a bunch. I've used carbon fiber rods, I've used different length rods, and I've used different weird ones. But I find myself using KONDOR blues rods the most, mainly for the fact that it has a ton of different holes here located throughout, making this lighter and more convenient for different kind of mounting points. Now I like aluminum rods solely because it's a little bit more rigid when you're building your base, which will make your base a lot stronger. And one of the reasons why I don't like using carbon fiber rods is because I've actually had them crack on me in the past from either over tightening my rig or just from general use. So while it might be lighter and easier to use, I find that most of them don't always have the best quality assurance, and you can just never go wrong with a solid piece of metal here. Now KONDOR makes it a lot lighter with these little holes, but it's also convenient because you're actually able to thread your quarter screws right through it and mount different things. So that kind of just opens up your whole mounting options a lot more, and it helps set you up to building different kind of rigs in the future. So one of the first things I do is always slot the battery plate right into the rods. And I actually had these little stoppers here that help me kind of align everything exactly to how I need. Also, it just makes rigging a lot easier and faster. And there you go. Now you have your first step done and it's already looking like a rig. That's it, guys. Then you can take your base plate and slide it all the way back. And as you can see, it goes all the way to the battery plate. So because I swapped the orientation, you're now able to actually push the base plate all the way back. And keep it pretty compact. Now that your base plate is on, you can actually put your camera on and actually slot it through the ARCA Swiss plate and align everything. So as you can see, drops all the way back, super compact, and you can align everything with the holes here, which I really like and actually use quite often. Now you don't actually have to push the camera all the way to the base plate. You can also leave a slight gap for any cable management you want to do. That way you don't have to have a bunch of cables flying everywhere on your camera rig, making it a lot cleaner and easier to use. Now you might have noticed that the screen is still flipped out, and that might look odd to you because this kind of button here from the battery plate kind of pushes against it. And while that might seem annoying, it's strategically done that way, okay? I thought about this. So the button that's actually running into your screen is the V-mount lock, but once you slot your V-mount battery in, you'll notice that it actually recedes back into the plate and you can push your screen in and wow, it's straight, completely straight. It's almost as if I planned it that way. You'll also notice that because of the height of the base plate, everything is aligned on the top completely straight. And you'll also notice that the D-tap port over here is completely accessible. Mind blown. I did a lot of testing, so there's a reason why that's so. Don't ask, but it works. So you have access to everything on one side, and you have access to everything on this side besides the Limo, but I highly doubt that everyone's using a Limo, and if you are, you still have one on this side. As you can tell, the screen lines up right with the battery, almost as if I made this rig specifically on purpose. Now, if you remembered why I said you needed a hollow base plate, and it's mainly for the fact that you can actually route the cables from the battery plate through the base plate and to the front. So if you have any follow focus system that you need to hook up, you can mount it directly to the actual system and through all the way directly to your battery. Everything's thought out. Now, here's something even crazier. Because you have the LWS system on the bottom here, you can actually mount a dovetail directly to the bottom, and now you're able to mount a variety of different kind of plates to the actual rig. That way you're not stuck with just whatever screws were on the base plate, and you can mount it in any direction and also slot it and position it to however you need. Also, just look at that alignment in terms of the plate and the actual camera here. Everything aligned on the top, everything aligned on the side. You have access to all your buttons still. It's like I planned this. All right, back to your scheduled program here. This is a top handle. To be more specific, this is the KONDOR Blue Talon grip. I don't know what KONDOR Blue was on when they made this, but this is probably the coolest handle I've ever used and probably the most balanced. Now, there's a lot of handles that I've used in the past, but I always come back to this one because of its size, portability, and how much is actually on this handle. Talon grips are probably the most easiest grips that you can use on your rig. It makes it more secure because you're holding a piece of metal between your knuckles here, and also it just feels a lot more comfortable to me. Now on this handle, there's actually a ton of different ways that you can mount different things to it. You have two NATO rails located on the top and on the front, but you also have a bunch of different RE locating pin mounts all over the entire handle. And you have two hot shoe mounts or cold shoe mounts on the back and on the front here. So it's very convenient and very versatile in terms of a handle. And you'll find this is probably one of the very few handles out there that is this compact and this versatile. Look at that. Looking like a rig already. Honestly, that's pretty much it. Something that's optional. You can always go for a trusty matte box to complete the look of your rig. If anyone tells you that a matte box is not necessary, it is, because your rig looks 10 times cooler. Now, you don't need a matte box because this is pretty much the completed rig right here, but if you do like using filters, or if you need to adapt a V&D or different kind of things to different lenses, I often find myself using a matte box, even though people say, oh, it's just for looks. For me, I have a mist on there, I have my V&D in there, I could swap out different filters whenever I need, or if I'm using different lenses, I just adapt it right on, and I also don't have to worry about getting different filters. You can't go wrong with a matte box. Are we professional or what? Hey guys, yeah, I'm a cinematographer now. But this is pretty much the completed look to your entire rig. I think it's the more compact version of what I worked with in the past. It makes everything a lot easier. And if you noticed, a lot of the times your rod will have that extra length here. And that's completely fine because if you have different kind of lenses or if you have different kind of things you need to mount, you have all that extra room. But yeah, if you're looking to build your rig out and make it as customizable as possible, this is probably the best way that I found how to after testing years and years of different kind of equipment. You can thank me later for spending the thousands of dollars. Now, one of the reasons why I'm making this video is because a lot of people asked about the Cineback and if it was good. And I think it's a great product and it makes it easy to mount your rig. But if you're looking to do other options, there are still regular parts out there. And this has also been probably the closest that you can get to a Cineback that is fully customizable and everything that you would need. But that's about it. I hope I explained everything to the fullest as to why I use certain parts and why I did what I did. Hopefully you can build a rig similar, and if not, there are a ton of different options. If you're looking to do different kind of rigs, let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, if you like the video, go ahead and show some love down below. And if you want to, maybe subscribe. Maybe I'll make more videos like this. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, it's 1 o'clock a.m. I want to eat an orange.